Oh, you started recording now?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, my bad.
You're good. You can keep going.
I thought we were already recording.
I completely forgot. I was so engrossed. I was like, okay, keep going. Sorry. That was my fault.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
Uh,
So tell me about your experiences in your childhood home that you were talking about.
the experiences in my childhood home was that in which my little sister told me this before. Uh, like one night I was having a bad dream about some little girl, some random girl just running around in the home. And in which I had two sisters, and in which one has I'll just say dirty blonde, the other's brown hair. This kid had solid black hair, best way to describe it is almost like that solid black paint that they have on the market where it looks like it's 2D instead of 3D dimensioning. And that's the best way I could describe this little girl's hair. And it just in my dream, I'd see her just running around the whole home, just destroying it. And you'd be like, why is this going on? And then, of course, I'd wake up and you'd go out to the living room and there'd be always something different. And you'd be like, something's not right. And you know it. And then, of course, my mom would come out and point out saying, well, why is the couch turned the other direction? Or why is the dining room set chairs all flipped up on top of the table, or this or that? And you'd be like, yeah, I don't remember that being like that last night. And then, of course, talking to my littlest sister, because of how the home was set up, it would be one of the living rooms and the dining room table in the same room. Then you'd have the kitchen and washer and dryer in the same room. And then going past the washer and dryer is the other living room. Well, from where the first living room is, leads into a hallway that's basically an L. Well, the first room is my sister's, and how her bed is set up in that room, you could see from her bed all the way straight to the washer and dryer because it was all open from there. And she said the same night that I had that dream that she saw a little girl sitting on, it was either the washer or dryer. I don't remember how those two were set up, but she remembers seeing this little girl with black hair sitting on the washer and dryer, dead staring at her, and then immediately watching this girl's head spin completely around multiple times. And of course, at that time, I was a full-on skeptic. I was like, I don't believe you. So I told her I would swap her rooms. She ends up having the exact same nightmare I had of this little girl running around the house, destroying it. And then, of course, I wake up in her bed looking straight at the washer or dryer, watching this little girl's head completely spin. I told my mom, and she told me the story of how the one owner, her and her husband got into it and they split, and basically she unalived herself. So after I heard that, I started looking into the home more, and everything that I kept getting was darker and darker and darker. And you're just like, okay, yeah, this house definitely has something attached to it. So the last day that my mom was living there, and before they shut the door and was completely out, I decided I was going to do a quick investigation on the home. Nothing like what you'd see on TV where everybody's provoking. It was more or less, I swept the home with my little recorder, trying to see if I could pick up any voices. I took a lot of pictures. I forget what else I did. There was a bunch of stuff that I did before I left. And of course, the only thing I got was one picture of an orb in the basement, in the crawl space. It's directly underneath where my bed was. And the orb was shooting up a cord that was laying on the ground. And for me, I always took double pictures, but after the last group that I was with, they always took three. So I'm
Okay.
like, okay. And of course, I showed the picture, and they were like, "Yeah, something's wrong with that house." But it's like,
So for the history though, like how far back in history was like all of the do
I,
you remember?
I want to say, if my memory is correct, she ended up. I want to say the house was built in the 60s or the 70s, and she unalived herself, I think early 2000s. It was the 90s or early 2000s, in which the house itself hasn't stood. I think they destroyed the house like 3 years ago. The only thing they didn't do was remove the basement. They just basically destroyed the house on top and caved everything into the basement. So
Okay.
from from what I'm understanding, because I've driven past the house, I still feel that negative energy, but it is like triple the amount of energy than what it was when I was living there. Like, I've never felt the energy when you turn onto the road, but now, like, if I would go drive down that road, right as soon as I would turn onto the road, I could feel the energy and not even see the house of where it's at yet. And by the time I get to where the driveway is, of where that home is, it just feels like 1,000 pounds of is just like on me of just energy.
So oh my God. So your house now, you say your house now also has some spirits in it. So you said you've identified, is it three?
I've identified three. I know I know their stories basically. I know the names. I have a rough estimate of ages as well. Uh Jerry, he is the one that, if anybody that's listened to your podcast that also has listened to mine, they know Jerry. I'm pretty sure Jerry has made EVPs on my podcast. Problem is I don't re-listen to my episodes, so it's like waiting for the listeners to go, "Hey, somebody else was talking when you were." But Jerry's about 42 years old. He passed due to a tumor in the head. He looks at me as his little brother, and I picked him up on my hunting trip last year when I was out in the woods.
Like you picked him up out like while out on a trip, or is he in the house?
He's in the house with me. He
Okay.
followed me home without me knowing.
Were you like, cause I'm not like an avid hunter, but I had a cousin whose husband who was. So do you guys have like a particular area you usually like rent out a cabin or what? Okay. So what was the area?
Down by Quaker City, or Quaker City, Ohio. It's like I'm not sure how far away it is from the West Virginia border, but it's like right over in there. The Yeah, I have no idea exactly where Jerry's was from. I haven't really asked that question just because of other stuff, but I know actually we celebrated his death day back in January. I want to say it was like January 29th.
So how did you, I guess, learn all of this just by through EVP sessions or
My former team leader is a psychic medium, and with how friendly Jerry is, whenever she would have like her voice box going, or of course, just being live on TikTok, you would have people come through and go, "Hey, somebody's being very chatty, and it's coming through your end, Cody." And I'd be like, "I'm not saying a word. I'm by myself. My wife's on the couch on the other side. She hasn't said nothing either." And they're like, "Nah, it was a male voice, but it definitely wasn't yours." I'm like, "I'm the only male in this house." So that, of course, we came across, or she picked up on Jerry, and he's basically been like my podcast is uh
Secret co-host.
secret co-host, mascot.
So what about your other two?
All right, the other one, his name is Mike. He's roughly, when he passed, was about 43, 45, somewhere in that range. He actually came home with me through going to an investigation, and in which I'm shocked only because when I leave investigations, we sage down completely. We use like, oh, it's string. Sorry. The AC kicked on and I had my one shirt hanging out to dry and there was just a random string blowing and I was like, what the? But yeah, he on proper cleansing when you leave an investigation is blue sage. There's a type of tree that goes with it. And then you basically step up the game from there till you feel like you're not bringing something home. I did the blue sage, the wood. We cleansed myself. My wife cleansed her. We cleansed the inside of my truck. We did the whole holy water ordeal. And a couple of days later, we went live on TikTok and was talking about the investigation. And out of the corner of my eye, because I'm sitting in my living room right now, my kitchen's off to my left. I got a little island, and on the other side is the kitchen sink and the oven. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a shadow person just standing in the kitchen, or I don't want to say shadow person. I caught a shadow in the corner of my eye walking around in my kitchen. And of course, when I catch something in my peripheral, I always look. Well, long and behold, as soon as I looked, nothing was there. So I started asking my team leader, "Hey, did somebody follow me home? Because Jerry's never made himself known by me seeing him. He's the one that normally likes playing with electronics. Like, I have an Amazon device in my home, and in which, of course, when I walked out of my bedroom at 4 o'clock this morning, it was lit up like it was trying to check out something, and then it shut off. But yeah, Jerry likes to manipulate the Amazon device, and that's honestly how we figured out how he was around, because of our Amazon device would randomly do its synatics and yell at us for no reason. And she goes, "Well, let me check." And then she goes, "Did you cleanse from our last investigation?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "You were standing there with the bottle of holy water, hosing me down with it." She goes, "Well, you have one of the train wreck victims now in your home." And I'm like, and she goes, "By the way, he's a shadow person, so I'm happy that you saw him." And I'm sitting here going, "Oh, yay, more friends." But come to find out that Mike here is a great protector. And with my last investigation going to Helltown, Ohio, he decided he was hitching along and protecting.
That's pretty cool.
Now, the third one, and I'll apologize right now if I get a little emotional. The third one is my stepmother, Cindy. She passed away a couple years ago. I do have some ashes of her in the home. She she's the one that tends to come in and out of the home when she pleases. She does show up when she knows something isn't right. and I want to say she passed away around in her 40s as well. But like my dad and my dad's side of the family, or my sisters on my dad's side of the family, all have ashes from her or of her somewhere in our home. My dad has his full urn of her, and I feel like from what I've gotten from her, she likes bouncing around to each of the kids to make sure we're safe and protected, making sure my dad doesn't end up hurting himself because of him being reckless. But yeah, she's basically passed away of lung cancer and all that. So,
I'm sorry for your loss, but it's pretty cool that a loved one kind of, floats around and makes sure and checks on everyone. So that's pretty awesome. So you're Helltown. I was kind of looking into it. I watched some of your TikToks and then I listened to a couple of your podcasts, but do you want to dive deeper into it?
I'm always down to talk about Helltown.
Okay, sounds good. Go ahead.
So, Helltown is one of them abandoned towns in Ohio. It used to be called Boston, Boston, Ohio. It got the nickname Helltown because of how crazy the stories of how they had to abandon the town got. Like, they can't even pinpoint, the government, I'm pretty sure, can pinpoint why the town was really evacuated. But in reality, if you get on social media or get on the internet and look, they'll they'll give you there was a chemical spill, there was something to do with the land being cursed itself to where it made it harder to live there. They were talking that there was cults that were just abducting school buses and unaliving everybody on the bus. So it's like everything that you look into, basically, you have to take with a grain of salt. Yeah, I kind of go with the chemical spill into the water system in the area on why they had to abandon the town. But then again, there was a lot of talk about, or a lot of that part of Ohio being bought up to become a national park, in which it's now a national park. Yes, there are some people that live within that town now, but the main town of Helltown, Ohio, is still abandoned. They've burnt down, I think, 20% of the homes that were in Helltown, Ohio, due to them not being safe. But I know if you get on the main road and go back to the where they block it off, saying, "Hey, you can't drive back here anymore," you have the Stanford home, and which the Stanford home has a lot of dark history to it. Recent stuff that I've found out due to last weekend, uh, father took his kids out to the barn that was right next to the home there. That is still standing and you still can see, but it's kind of hard to get into due to the woods being as thick as they are. The father ended up unaliving both of his kids and killing his pregnant wife as well. They stated that a hitchhiker flagged a school bus down and had the school bus take him to the Stanford home just to have the cult that the hitchhiker was a part of unalive everybody on the school bus to where nobody was alive. So going into basically walking in to the entrance of Helltown and starting your walk to the Stanford home and past and going into Helltown itself, it's almost like walking into another, I don't know how to put it, like, I don't want to say another dimension, but like definitely you can feel the energy in the air of the spirits around you. Like,
Kind of like otherworldly.
yeah,
Yeah.
because when we were like my wife and I've been there. Well, she's been there probably a total of 4 times now. I've been there a total of 8. It's just the one time me and her went, we left a concert. The temperature in her car and on our phones both stated it was like 72 out by the highway. We made it back to the no cars past this point sign basically, and the temperature was down to like 62 degrees. We were standing there, or we got out of her car and just started breathing, and you could clearly see our breath like it was the middle of winter. I mean, last weekend we were out in the woods. I was sweating. My buddy that came with me from Pennsylvania, he was sweating. My wife, she was standing there sweating, and we could see her breath. Like they they were on TikTok live with the phone up next to their mouth, breathing out to where the people that was watching could see our breath as well. And I don't know what it is, but every time that I've gone back to that place, I find something new out or find something new about the location, or it ends up becoming more questions than answers.
So, what's your most profound experience there so far?
Well, that's a tough one only because every time that I've gone, I've gotten pushed out of the woods because of something. And it's kind of hard to say exactly what because of it being that whole question to answer thing. Now, I did find out last Saturday that where we were standing in that barn, if we would have went, I want to say it was like northeast, northwest, it was some direction beyond where we were standing, not even a mile away, is where a bunch of people have sightings of Sasquatch. So, of course, me being me and being a wanting that interaction with a Sasquatch again, I convinced my buddy and my wife that she was totally against it. She kept saying that she had a bad feeling. I had to put that out there because if I didn't and she listened, I was getting yelled at. So she kept saying, no, 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 we should go back with the other paranormal group. We should just go back to the car, call it a night. I'm like, nah. I'm like, it's only midnight. I'm like, let's head up the road a little bit more. Let's go to the other abandoned houses and let's go see if we can try and find a Bigfoot or get something. Yeah, we walked probably not even a quarter way up that road to that location, and I started hearing like something crunching in the woods on my left side. And I'm like, I kept shining the light into the woods. And of course, it was raining last Saturday, so it's completely foggy in that area now. We're walking around at night in fog, hearing strange noises, and I don't know what it was, but I caught eye shine. I kept like trying to focus in on it, and it kept wanting not to be seen. So I'm sitting here going, all right, we took probably a couple more steps from that. And I don't know what it was, but it was just like a bolt of electricity that hit all 3 of us at the same time. And it went in like all 3 of our minds just went into fight or flight mode. And I just was like, all right, we all need to back off. I don't know what we just walked into, but I'm hearing noises off to the right side, and which our right side is a downward cliff. Like you're going, like if you go over the barrier that's like right there, you're going straight down a hill. but we're hearing noises off to our right. We're hearing noises off to our left. We barely can see in front of us, but for some reason, it just hit all three of us we need to go now. So, of course, I told them to turn around, slowly start walking away, because if you watch any bear documentary, they don't want you to run. They want you to move back slowly. So, of course, I kept facing the back way. I tried keeping a close distance with those two. We slowly started backing away till I felt like I could turn my back on whatever was behind us to get us back to where we were at. And of course, I then had the idea of, well, I did say on live I wasn't leaving here until I did my Bigfoot call. Sorry, somebody's trying to get my attention, and I don't know where they're at. But of course, I said I wasn't going to do, or I wasn't going to leave till I did my Bigfoot call, because I used to do it all the time when I went out, go look, and I was like, all right. And of course, I didn't do my Bigfoot call. I just did 2 whoops. My buddy caught the whoops, and of course, the next, what? No, it was Monday night. He goes, "Hey, I'm not sure how to edit videos, but I think we got something on camera." Because he's like, "I got 3 strange noises, and I don't know what they are." I'm like, "Yeah, just send it over. I'll listen." Sends me over about a 35-second video, because he cut some parts out, and you hear where I do my whoops, and then right before he cuts to a minute later, you hear like a branch or something break, and then it goes into the 3 noises, and of course he marks out the 3 noises, but the 3 noises sounded like it came off of one of us. So I was like, I feel like that noise might have been one of us and not something beyond us. But I'm like, the point right before that cutoff, I'm like, you might want to send me that after I do the whoops and give me up to where the first noise is. And he goes, why? I'm like, I feel like we caught something that wasn't us on the recording. Long and behold, we caught a branch breaking that none of us heard, but was caught on camera, or caught on the recording. So we make it back down to the vehicle. The other paranormal team's still standing down there, and they're like, "Oh, you're back a lot quicker than we thought." And we're like, "Yeah, something chased us off the hill." I'm like, "We don't know what, but something chased us off the hill." And of course, my other half, I don't know what it's called, but it's like something on a chain, and the rock goes in a circle. But like, as soon as we got home, she
Like
was
the
asking,
pendulum?
yeah, the pendulum. Sorry, I couldn't think of what it was, but yeah, she was uh the but yeah, she was doing that when we got home, and I looked at her and I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, since uh one of our friends that's a psychic medium said, 'Hey, your buddies followed you guys out there to make sure you were protected. You might,'" or she's like, "I was going to ask what their opinions were." Of course, she started asking questions, and they were like, "Yes, we went with you." She's like, "Do you know it chased us off the hill?" And they were like, "Yes, we do." She goes, "Was it a Wendigo? Because there's lures with Wendigos tied into Helltown, Ohio." And trust me, a lot of people believe it. I believe it because I've heard some of their noises out there, and you tend to want to turn around and go home. But she kept asking like all this stuff, and then she'd look at me and be like, or she looked at me and she goes, "Well, Mike," she's like, "I believe this is Mike I'm talking to. He says that we got chased off the hill by a Bigfoot." She said it was close to us. She's like, "I don't know how close, And that's when I looked at her and I was like, well, it was close enough to have eye shine. She goes, and you didn't tell us that? I'm like, I wasn't sure what I was looking at. So it's kind of hard to tell you, hey, we just encountered a Sasquatch when I don't have video evidence. I don't have pictures of it. All I have is me physically looking at something with eye shine in the woods. And then to have a ghost basically go, yeah, that was Bigfoot you were staring at. And I'm like, well, I can't go out and say, hey, I saw Bigfoot at night in the middle of a fog because a ghost told me I saw it.
So what about that's your second experience, right? So what about your first experience with Bigfoot?
So my first experience with Bigfoot was back at my mom's home, in which, like I said, it's about 20 minutes from where I live now. And I want to say at the time I was probably 7, 8, 9 years old. My stepbrothers and I all got airsoft guns. We wanted to have an airsoft war. So we're back in the woods. We're like, all right, on a count of 10, I'm going to go this way, you go that way, you go that way. And in a couple minutes, we all had watches on. We had all of a set time and whatever. And we're like, all right, at this time, the war starts and we come and look for each other. So in my mind, I'm like, all right, sweet. I'm going to go to the trail that I've ran 1,000 times before, that I know if I can get up this hill fast enough before this time, I'll have a chance because of it being high ground. I could shoot down on them and all this other stuff. And then, of course, we split. My mind started changing, going, wait, there's a down tree. The roots and dirt's still all up on the dirt's still on the roots. It's a massive pine tree. It's still got all the brush, and it looks like you could get up in there and hide. So I'm like, I'm going to hide there. And when they walk past, I'm going to get them. Well, I got into that spot. I'm hunkered down. All of a sudden, I start hearing noise. And of course, on the other side of because the pine tree fell down, not on the trail, but on the opposite side of the trail, like into more brush. And then on the other side of that trail is a pond that's probably, I'd say, 100 meter or 100 yards, 150 yards wide. And then, of course, the hill itself is like 200 yards tall. So, and which I'm guessing on all that. So I don't want one of your listeners to come back and go, well, it sounds like he's just making stuff up. No, I'm just giving you an accurate of like, hey, this is a wide pond and a pretty tall hill. And of course, I knew there was another way of getting up that hill, in which my one stepbrother knew it as well. So I'm sitting here putting two and two together, going, all right, sweet. This is him. This is him up on top of the hill. I know his airsoft gun can't reach me because it can only shoot so far. I know mine could shoot that whole distance up the hill and I could easily hit it. So I'm like trying to get in position, looking around the roots and the dirt of the tree that's laying down. And all of a sudden, I just see two deer jump like off this hill, down it, and take off running. And then I saw a rock go flying past both deer's heads. And I'm like, I I don't know why, but like I went from being hidden behind all of this to where my body is standing like right next to the roots, jaw just wide open, just like what threw that rock? Because I'm still locked on with these deer, just like staring at them running for what looks like to be their life at this point. And then all of a sudden I look up at the top of this hill and this tall, big, hairy creatures just staring down at me. And I, like I said, my jaw's just open. I'm staring at this thing. it felt like I was staring at this giant hairy man for like 10, 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, I had a rock fly past my head, probably not even this far, and which that's probably like another head away from me. And I don't know why, but like it was just instinct alone that I took off running. Like I ran all the way back home, and which from where I was at to my house was like a 20-minute walk. I ran all the way back home, ran in the door, ran into my bedroom, dropped to the floor, and just started crying because I was like, there is no way I just saw a monster out in the woods. I woke up the next morning with 2 handprints and a face on my bedroom window. And on the outside of my bedroom is a window well. And on the outsides of both the windows wells was 2 giant footprints. And then because my stepbrother's bedroom is on the back side of the house and it's a giant bay window, it also had 2 handprints and a face on the window, like whatever it was looking in. And my mom thought it was just me and my stepbrothers just messing around and thought that the hands and the face print was just my stepdad, like trying to see if we were in the house because of him blocking himself out or something. And of course, my stepdad was like, that wasn't me. That's too big. And of course, it's like he puts his hands up next to it, and we're like, yeah, that is, his hands are tiny compared to that. So
Did your brother happen to see Bigfoot at the same time in the woods as you did, or did you guys have like different encounters on the same day?
if they ever encountered it, they never told me. In which I told them my encounter, and they were like, yeah, right, whatever. But it's just like, it's like, I want to say my mom's now starting to come along and see stuff just because of myself having to show evidence and all that of it. Like another paranormal team out in, I want to say Tennessee. I want to say it's Tennessee, but they had a trail camera up and they caught a picture of Bigfoot. And of course, we were my former team and I was live on TikTok, and their team leader jumped in the comments. And at the time, we were talking about how to encourage a Bigfoot to come out and all that. And I was like, oh well, you treat Bigfoot like a fat kid, because I've always heard stories where you have like a fresh baked cookie or cookies out and you leave it on the windowsill like how they do out in the country and all that, and they always come out and find that the tray's gone or this or that. So I always made the joke of, yeah, feed Bigfoot like a fat kid. And she goes, or the one paranormal team was like, hey, we have a picture of Bigfoot if you want to see it. And I was like, yeah, I want to see a picture of Bigfoot. I always want to see a picture of Bigfoot. She sent me a picture of Bigfoot, and I looked at that picture for probably 2 months straight, like every day. Like at one point, I took it off of or put it on as my screensaver on my phone just because I was like, yeah, I want a picture or something of Bigfoot like that one day. In which it's still on my phone right now.
So you haven't encountered him like while you're out hunting or anything as of yet?
Last year I was sitting up in the deer blind, and of course I didn't see him. It was more or less because it was the week after Thanksgiving here in Ohio, so that's where we get to use something a lot more powerful than a bow. And yeah, I was just sitting up in a blind because we're on private property. So we have this nice wooden blind where we put our heaters in and be warm. And of course, it was a warm day that day, so I had my all three windows around me down, and I never heard nothing come up on me. But all of a sudden, this rock that was probably like this big around hit the side of the blind. It just made a big boom. It felt like I had a heart attack just up there in the blind, because I started like looking around thinking the blind's coming out of the tree or a tree fell on the blind, and I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? What's happening? And I'm looking around. All of a sudden, I look down and see that giant rock, because that rock was not there. So then I start like looking around thinking like my father-in-law or his buddies like picking on me and just making me think that they're out there. So I texted him and I was like, hey, are you guys out here throwing rocks at me? And he's like, no, we're down at the trailer getting lunch. When are you coming down? I'm like, when do you guys want to come up here and walk me back down to camp? He goes, why? I'm like, because I got a feeling I got a friend up here that's not supposed to be on the property, and I don't know how to tell him to go home. So he texts me back. He's like, just yell out the window you're on private property, and that if they don't get off the property, that you're calling the cops. And I was like, okay. Yelled that out the window, grabbed my my shotgun, got out of the stand, and I don't want to say I ran, but I probably walked as fast as I could to where they could physically see me again. Walk down this giant hill, because for some odd reason the trailer had to be on the lowest part of the hill, while the hunting part is all on the top of this hill. But yeah, I made it all the way back down to hunting camp, and I told my father-in-law, hey, somebody was up there throwing rocks at the hunting blind. I don't know if they realized there was somebody in there with something or not, and I don't know what it was. And he goes, oh, it was probably just the guys on the other side of the hill trying to get you out so they could get all the deer. And I was like, okay. That same day, I climbed into my tent because my father-in-law always told me that the hunting camp or the hunting trailer had rats and or mice and snakes in it. So I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna bring a tent and sleep on the ground. But that first night, I heard coyotes. I heard something that sounded close to a coyote, but definitely was a lot louder than a coyote. And then probably after all the coyotes knocked off, whatever you want to call it, I heard a loud whoop, and I was like, okay, I'm probably sleeping in the trailer for the rest of the hunting trip. And I didn't. I slept in the tent because I was like, I got my mind set into it, and I was like, man, it'd be amazing to catch a picture of this thing on camera. So I started setting my trail camera up outside the tent. Didn't catch anything. Didn't have any more interactions with whatever it was after that night. But it was like, okay, don't go into the woods without something on me.
So have you encountered any other type of cryptids aside from Bigfoot?
Possibly a Wendigo, but that's going back to Helltown. And like I said, I love Helltown. One telltale sign of almost having an interaction with the Wendigo is hearing a small child or a baby cry. So if you hear that and you're out in the middle of the woods, your best bet is to figure out where you. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. It felt like something hit me in the back of the throat. But when you hear baby cry or a young child cry, is most likely a Wendigo, meaning when you hear that and you're out in the middle of the woods and you don't have young children with you, turn around and find your car. This was like the second time that I went to Helltown. It was me and my buddies. We decided, yeah, we're going out to Helltown. We're going to go find the buildings, going to go explore and see how long we can be out here. We made it to about 3 o'clock in the morning, started walking up that same road that had that strange encounter with Bigfoot on Saturday. And all of a sudden, my one buddy goes, I'm hearing a baby cry. And I looked at him and I said, you want to repeat that to me? He goes, I'm hearing a child or a baby cry right now. He goes, it sounds like it's coming off in that direction. And the direction he pointed was off to our right side. The right side is the side where you go over the little barrier and go down the hill. And I looked at him and I said, all right, one last time, you want to repeat that because you're sounding crazy right now. He goes, I'm hearing a baby cry in that direction. And I looked at him and I said, well, it's time for us to go back to the car. He's like, but what about the baby? I said, dude, you go after that kid. I'm probably never seeing you again. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I know you're not into cryptids. I know you're only here because of it. It's an abandoned town. It's a fun adventure and it's bonding with the group. But I'm like, out of all of us, I've sat down and I've learned a lot of stuff on cryptids. We need to get out of here now. He's like, I don't understand. I'm like, the thing that is crying right now is not a child. It is a monster that is probably 6 to 9 feet tall, has a skull on its head, and it's looking at you as its next meal. If you want to stay, we can stay, but you're bait now. And he looks at me and goes, yeah, I don't want to be bait. Let's go.
I was gonna say the next time that like you see him or talk to him, tell him to watch Antlers. Have you watched it?
No.
So it's a horror movie, but it's like the monster in that movie is actually a Wendigo.
Okay. I know the current book I need to finish the third book, but I know the current book that I'm reading is, I always get them mixed up. Let me look it up real quick. I'm only into it because my other half, called Run and Hide. I don't have a clue what the reader's name is, and I know if I hit the thing, it's going to start trying to record that. But it's Run and Hide, Hide and Seek and Run, something like that. But it's supposed to be a romance novel about Mothman. And the more you listen into the book, because I'm not wanting to ruin it, they keep adding in more cryptids. And by book 3, which I haven't read yet, they have, they're cliffhanger books, because at the ending of book 1, they're all in the middle of a cave trying to find this person that's, well, they're being chased by a person, they're hiding from them, and then you got this random person calling out going, hey, I need help, I'm a lost hiker, yada yada yada. Well, ending of book 2, Mothman, her, I'm not going to say what the third thing is because of it's a complicated line and it's just one of her lovers. And then his bandmate is just got turned into a Wendigo, and he's curled up next to the cage going, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I don't know what to do. And I'm just like, okay, yeah. My wife, she loves romance novels. One of my episodes in which I still have this running joke on with everybody because everybody keeps asking me, "Oh, how's the book coming?" I'm like, "Oh, the book I'm writing is going to be great." My former co-host and I had an episode called Devil Monkey, and in which shockingly it's now one of the most listened to episodes on my podcast. But in the episode, because beforehand we were sitting there joking because uh my wife got on one of the pages on Facebook and asked, what's a great cryptid romance novel that my husband can listen to? And of course, everybody kept listing all these romance novels because apparently there's a bunch of them out there. And the one cryptid that nobody mentioned was the devil monkeys. So then, of course, when we brought or got that topic up for the podcast, I started doing a bunch of research on sightings and other stuff. And then it hit me. I was like, I want to see if there's a romance novel for devil monkeys. Long and behold, I haven't found one yet. So, of course, I brought that up to my co host, and he's like, you should write a romance novel about devil monkeys. And for everybody that knows me, knows I have a hard time reading, and they're pretty sure I'm dyslexic. So this book's going to be great because most of it's going to be the sightings that I've done with somehow me making it to where devil monkeys had romance with people.
Oh my god. It's I was about to say the only like I've never known them to have cryptid romance novels, but I remember in high school there was this girl who was obsessed with it wasn't Anne Rice, but there was another writer like her. And it was like some sort of vampire hunter. Oh, I have no idea. I'll have to ask my husband when he comes back because his mom also read them and I'm like, those were wild. Like I don't know what those were, but those were wild.
There are some books that my other half has read, and I'm just sitting here catching like a little bit of it because she'll have it on in the house if she's like cleaning or if we're driving to work together, and we'll be listening to it and they'll hit those like certain scenes and you're just like, oh my god, that is heavy. Like, and of course she didn't make this logo for Paranormally Cryptid, but she's made 3 out of my 5. And there's one of my logos where it shows a shadow person with a book in his hand, and it has Den of Vipers on the cover. That was the only romance novel that she had me sit down and read the whole thing of. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, that's a good book. There's some spots in that book you're just like, that's a little much. And then, of course, she tells me that that book had trigger warnings that she didn't tell me about. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, I can see that.
So how did you find out about Helltown?
One of my exes, her and her friends were going because of one of them wanted to write or had to write a book report on an abandoned town in the United States. And he wanted to write about Helltown. So it was around Halloween time. They all knew that I wasn't big into haunted houses, like the fake mirrors and all that. I like haunted locations. So they're like, "Oh, Helltown would be great for you. It's an abandoned place. They got a bunch of people, da da da." And I was like, "All right, whatever, we'll go." We went. Nobody wanted to get out of the car at 12 o'clock at night in an abandoned town, but me. I get out. I start walking around to where I'm still within sight of them because I wasn't listening to me getting yelled at. And one of the other guys in the car gets out, comes across the street, lights up a cigarette, goes back, stands outside the car, starts smoking. And of course, a couple of vehicles go by. I walk back over and I look at him. I was like, was that a school bus? He goes, yeah. Look at the clock. It's like past 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, no, no school buses should be out right now. He goes, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. He's like, by the way, did you hear either of those vehicles go past us? And I'm like, no, no, I didn't. And then we were like, didn't it look like the one drove off the road? And I'm like, yeah, because the road curves to the left and the other is just a slight right, where the one looked like it went straight, like didn't follow either of the roads, just went straight. And then the other one looked like it did a hard right when it should have been a light right. So we, of course, walked down to the where both of those vehicles disappeared, and there were no tire marks of them going off the road at all. So then we walked back to the car, and of course, my ex's best friend claims that she can see ghosts. Well, at the time, I didn't believe her because I'd never had my luck ever meeting psychics or mediums. It was always everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that," and then when you put them to the test, they couldn't do nothing. So she's curled up in the back seat in a ball, crying because she's like, "There's dead people all around us. There's dead people all around us," and I'm just like, "Sure, there are." And then, of course, my ex was like, I think we should get out of here. I don't think it's right of us to be here and da 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 da. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Went there. My wrestling buddies, and I told all my wrestling buddies about it the next day. And they're like, you know what? We're going down there. I'm like, cool. We had our wrestling mat, or it was it was wrestling like WWE, but it was indie circuit style. So we did our show. We left the show. I'm still full face paint because that was my character. Had face paint on. We were walking around the woods, and another group of people just randomly show up. We start BSing with them. They were walking back, and this is where I told the story earlier where we heard the baby cries and all that. And I told my buddy, hey, so yeah. But yeah, I heard Helltown from basically my one of my exes.
So do you have like a dream location you want to investigate?
I would say the Caesar Hotel or wherever they have Annabelle hidden.
Annabelle. Sorry. Isn't it out like, isn't it in the north? Somewhere up the northeast?
Last I heard, it was like over in Georgia or I want to say either North or South Carolina.
I didn't realize she was on the move.
Well, she's technically wasn't supposed to be, but with the from the last that I heard, it was or they were moving her just because of it was something stupid, or I could be wrong on it all. I don't remember the exact location. I do remember that there was talk that they were moving the doll out of the Warrens' house into a hidden museum, but I think the museum was in Georgia. I'd have to look it up again. I don't know why. It's just when it comes to like haunted dolls, it's more intriguing than like going to an actual haunted location, because it's like they can either stick with you and mess with you, or it's like how Annabelle is she's trapped, but bad stuff still happens if you do dumb stuff. That's like
Okay.
Robert the doll, where if
Oh
you
yeah,
take
the
a
one down in
picture,
South Florida.
I always joked, I was like, I would love to see Annabelle and Robert the doll and Peggy the doll and whatever the other most haunted doll in the world is sit down and have a tea party, because I think that'd be kind of sweet. And everybody would be like, that would be Armageddon or Doomsday if the top five haunted dolls got together for a tea party. And I'm like, I don't feel like it would be that bad.
So have you thought about, I know it's like out of the country though, but the island of the dolls?
No. Anything that has island in it, I've already ruled out of wanting to go. It's not because I don't like being on an island. It's just normally whenever you have an island full of snakes or an island full of spiders, there's something bad happening. I'm not terrified of I'm not terrified of spiders, but when you have a lot of spiders on one island, you can only smash so many before you get bit. Snakes, on the other hand, that would be like that'd be the one island I would probably have a heart attack on before getting bitten.
That's right. Go out your way. Don't go out the snake's way.
Yeah. But sorry. Another one of my favorite locations is Post Town. I've only gone once. It's been shown on Jack Osborne's Portal to Hell and the Good Brothers episode, or yeah, Good Brothers.
Ghost
They
Brothers?
Ghost Brothers. I don't know. It's one of them, but I know it. I know Post Town Elementary School has been posted on two paranormal shows during COVID, and in which I know Jack Osborne was one of them. Actually, I want to say it probably was the Ghost Brothers, but they showed how or footage of the owner of Post Town, because he lives in the building itself, getting drug out of one of the rooms in the location and being beaten. Like they had pictures of like I think it was like four dots on one side, two on the other of his forehead or top of his head. But like even going to that location myself, well, with my wife and former team, that it was honestly probably one of my favorite locations. We found out a lot. Of course, getting Mike there. And were we recording when I was talking about my ghost or no? Okay.
We were.
But yeah, getting Mike there definitely was a cherry on top, just because there's been a lot of stuff, I should say, that's been in and out of my home. And I'm happy that he's not one of those spirits that was bad. But they have a bad teacher, or a mean teacher, I should say, in the school, and in which we found out she's really not mean. It's just she was being blackmailed. And of course, having a psychic medium on the team makes it easier to communicate with the dead. And we found out why she was being blackmailed and what happened. And of course, when you find out something that happens, the person that is going to get in trouble gets mad. Well, we hid in the library for probably, what is it, the witching hours between like 3 and 4. Yeah, we were in the library from 3 o'clock all the way about 4:30, still hearing a male voice yell and a female voice going, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And we're like, okay, we're physically hearing this, and the owner of the building isn't even on that side of the building, because where his living quarters was like opposite corner, and in which they were already asleep by midnight. So like we're physically hearing an argument, and we're all sitting there just like listening to it going, okay, do we go check to see what's going on, or do we call it a night, go downstairs and go to bed? Because that is one of the special locations where you go in at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon and you check outs at like 2. And they have a nice little area where you can sleep. And of course, a lot of people like saying that they survived Post Town because it is the most haunted school in America.
That is really awesome. Do you guys have any like photos or anything? Any stuff you guys brought back?
I want to say I do have some photos. I'm terrible at taking a lot of photos because I'm always in the moment. I'm always like, if you don't strap a camera to me and just say, all right, go, I'm going to most likely forget because I'm in the moment. I'm trying to prove, I don't want to say to myself, but like I'll have my cell phone in my hand and be live so other people can see. So it's like, all right, I'm experiencing this, but are you seeing this as well? So that's where I try and get like a lot of the evidence is when you get people that's watching, sitting there taking screenshots or going, hey, I just heard this or I heard that. So then when you rewatch the live, you can go through and go, all right, well, they're saying around this marker time was this marker time's this, yada, yada, yada. And it's just a great way of interacting, per se, where a lot of people are like, all right, we need this amount of footage, we need this amount of video evidence. Can you break it down to this long so we're not sitting here for an 8-hour investigation just listening to one EVP where we still have 4 others to go through? And I'm sitting here going, so for me, most of my evidence is always coming from somebody else because I'm terrible at it.
Do you have a favorite piece of equipment you like to use?
All honesty, I have really no equipment. I have 2 bags that have 2 different cameras. One's a digital, the other is, I'll just say, the old school where you take a picture and the picture pops out. I can't think of what it is. Oh,
The Polaroid?
yeah. And I don't know why, but like everybody likes getting the lights and stuff that makes noises. I decided to buy a bunch of bells, get some string, and try and like knit the bells on string so we can hang them up around places to where people could like, or not people, but like stuff could bump into them. And then I found out that it's like impossible at certain locations to hang stuff up like that because they don't want you ruining the location with tape. So I was like, all right, sweet. I'm going to tie the string around in a knot. And they're like, I prefer you not to. All right. Because a lot of places don't want you damaging stuff. So I'm like, all right. So I have a thermal, but it's like $100 thermal that only picks up probably about a couple inches, or I'd say pick up enough in a room, but with like not having a physical object in front of you, it's not going to map anything out right. Because even in my own home, it'll just pick up all the air in between. Like if I point it at my TV screen, it'd pick up all the air in between. So I would see either solid purple or solid red. So it's like, all right, I need to go spend more money on a thermal that'll actually work and not be itself. Uh, the team leader gifted me a spirit box. I still don't have a recorder because the one I had got imprinted on, and whatever's on it will not let anything replay again. I got 2 GoPros, a bunch or like 4 cat balls, a couple other lights. Yeah, that's about it.
Do you have like the biggest location you've currently investigated?
Biggest location that that I have investigated is Helltown, due to it being miles long, or being such a big location to begin with, because it's not cooped up in one building. It is physically the land itself that is haunted and not the buildings.
So how much of it do you think you've investigated so far?
Not even, if I could put a percentage number on it, I wouldn't even say I've investigated 5% of Helltown yet.
So how old is Helltown? Because I know you said there's different stories as to like what kind of caused its downfall and the hauntings, but like, is there like a time?
Early 17th century is when they first migrated, or the Indians migrated onto the land itself. There's stories of them sacrificing goats and other animals to please the gods, in which some people state that it possibly was them sacrificing the animals to the Wendigo to make sure that the Wendigo wasn't going to get them. They abandoned the town. Then pioneers came, tried to farm the land, and found out that the land wasn't good for farming. So then they started looking into some of the history, I guess, and then they started sacrificing. Once they started sacrificing animals, that then then they would have food to harvest and all that. And it got to the point where their church, in which they have 2 churches on the property. The one church got the crosses ripped out. The other church still has its upside down crosses and a giant upside down cross inside the church itself. The part I failed to say is Helltown is a Satanist group. The cult members that could still be in the area are all still Satanists, and it was a Satanist group that unalived that whole school bus. So it's got its stories on it. It's just, like I said, what you read you have to take with a grain of salt, unless you find people that lived there or were alive around when it became abandoned, in which I want to say it was like early 80s, 90s is when it got evacuated into being an abandoned town.
And that was for was it the nuclear spill or
Uh,
spill?
the chemical spill, yeah.
So do you have a favorite cryptid? I know you have Bigfoot stories, but who's your favorite, like absolute favorite?
Mothman.
Have you been to the convention is it West Virginia?
West Virginia, Point Pleasant. Yes, I have. I went last year for the first time. And funny story, that is the day my podcast got started.
That's awesome. So tell me about it, because like I told my husband about it. I was like, I think I really want to go to this.
Not gonna lie, it'd probably be a lot better to go on just like say a weekday if you really don't want to be around a lot of people. But like, well, if you want to honestly like get into the museum and go to the TNT bunkers and all that, I would definitely see about like just a normal day of the week and not go during the festival. But like for this year, I already looked into it because they already got updates on the festival. It's September 16th and 17th. I plan on going whatever that Saturday is because the 17th is Paranormally Cryptid Podcast is 1 year. And I'm going just because it's an anniversary for my podcast. Also, at the same time, it's fun to go around, see everybody there that's dressed up because a lot of people dress up in cosplay. Like, I can't tell you how many people I saw in uh, Fallout armor or just dressed up in like Fallout cosplay. Like, there was one guy that was head to toe in like the mega armor or whatever, the battle suit. And you had another guy walking around as Hellboy. Of course, people dress up like Mothman all around. So they have contests for cosplayers there. It's definitely a place full of history for cryptids. But then again, at the same time, you're going because of them citing Mothman. I know on my Instagram page, I have pictures of myself in front of the statue. I know they have a live cam that's pointed on the statue at all times. So it's like if you want to see how like the festival is being done or how the festival is, you can get on the live cam and watch it.
That's pretty awesome. So do you have a favorite scary movie?
Oh no, I'm not really into scary movies, but if I had to pick one, I'd say Child's Play.
It's so funny. My youngest will run around and I'll call him Chucky because he's got like the red hair and he gets that one.
See, Child's Play was the first scary movie I ever got to see, but then again, I got to see that at a young age. So it's like, okay, dolls can move on their own and terrify you. But it's like now that I watch, I'm just like, eh. I really want to see the mean one. It's I can't think of who. It's one of them. Like, have you seen Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
I haven't seen it yet, but I saw the trailer for it and I'm absolutely like ready to watch it.
It's basically the Grinch's version of that.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
Yeah, I want to see it so bad, but I have no clue when it's coming out. And one of the podcasts that I listened to, I swear, did an episode on it, and like I went to go, like I waited for that episode to come out, and it never came out. And I messaged them, and they messaged back, and they're like, "We don't ever remember us saying that we were reviewing that movie, or even if we said it." And I was like, and of course, I went back and re-listened to like previous episodes, and I'm like, okay, they didn't say it. I'm like, where did I get the memo that this movie's already out? And I can't find it.
So if Google didn't fail me, it came out end of last year and you can catch it on Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon Prime.
Well, I haven't seen it on Netflix or Hulu, so
Yeah, that's what I thought because I have both of those and I'm like, I don't remember seeing that. But I also don't go on Amazon Prime because I get lost. Like, there's just so much to it.
I know Blood and Honey's on there. I started watching, but it was like late at night. I was tired and I was like already like half passed out. My wife's like, we're going to bed before you pass out on the couch and you wake up and your back's killing you. I was like, okay.
So, do you have a favorite like paranormal group that has like a TV show or like a cryptid group that has a TV show?
I love mountain monsters. I was just watching season 6 on Discovery Plus before uh, the interview and before my wife left because there's a book signing today and with one of her favorite authors. She's like, I'm going with my cousins. I'm going to be gone all day. I'm like, okay, I got an interview to do at noon and I got to figure something out today too. And I just looked at her. I was like, babe, are you going to be mad if I send these or if the Ames team an email and see if I can join their team? I'm like, I can put overalls on. I already got a beard and I already got guns. I can go run around the woods and yell. She just looks at me and goes, I love you so much, but I swear if you're not home when I get home and you're running around the woods with a gun yelling, I'm going to be mad.
That's so funny. That's my so we found it. God, earlier this year we found that show on Discovery Plus, and my youngest is like, I want to watch Mountain Monsters as a way to go to bed. It's like his favorite show to fall asleep to. I'm like, this is wild.
I want to say it's definitely been a different show since Trappers passed. But like,
I feel like they've gotten really dramatic since Trappers passed. Like it's gotten like really over the top as opposed to when they had Trapper, it was more like it was research and then it was, just
it honestly looked like when Trapper was like the first couple seasons, it honestly looked like they were out there honestly trying to get something. But it's like now it looks like it's almost like all Hollywood where you honestly just have hillbillies running around the woods with guns.
I'll never phrase it. It's either 5 or 6 where they have like the random door in the middle of the woods walking through.
Season 5 is where Trapper is sick and dies, and that's that whole season is where they're just randomly running around the woods, finding random stuff, trying to tie in all their research all together. And like I never saw the ending of season 5, let alone any of season 6. So of course I start on season 6, and the first thing I see is Bigfoot. I'm like, yeah, let's put out that good omen of let's go find Bigfoot.
I found that show and I was like, this is totally different than what I'm used to watching. And I was like, oh, the first like half is amazing because I was like, wow, they really do some good research. Like they're telling you some history and stuff. They're doing great interviews. And then I don't know, I fell asleep. Season 5 came on and I was like, what happened?
Yeah, and that's the worst thing is like even Ghost Adventures has even gotten to that point. But it's like, and I don't know if you've heard anything on the paranormal community, but like a lot of the TV shows that are paranormal all got basically their front doors kicked open and stated a lot of the stuff that you see is fake. So it's now like the paranormal community is all in a rush to try and be that team that can get the real evidence and not have to fake it to be on TV. And then you got like me where I'm like, I'm funny to be on TV, but I'm not really wanting to be the guy that wants to do all the evidence review to prove what I'm going after is real. I just want to go and be like, that was a blast. I want to go back again.
Yeah.
But
Ghost Adventures is what everything's demonic.
Yeah, I had a guy last Saturday that I don't want to say like, because I've talked to the guy multiple times, but like my former team, they were like, he can be too much or he can be much at times. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I gotcha. But then it was like physically actually getting to meet him at Helltown. And for me, knowing most of the history because of sitting down and doing it, and the first thing I hear out of his mouth when we walk into an abandoned barn is where's the demons at? I'm like, there are no demons here. It's just ghosts, or it's all people that have lost their lives due to people thinking something of themselves or just flat out just ending somebody to end somebody. The location itself has no dark stuff to it other than the father. And in which, if you're wanting that, you got to go up to the house that's where you all parked and walk into the barn that you can see right there off the road. That's your best way of getting interactions from that spirit. The rest of the place, you have to physically go to the locations where they physically are. So it's like, you want something demonic like that? There's a church where people state that they have seen Satan himself stand in. Now, if those stories are true or not, I have no clue.
I mean, I don't know. It's weird because you watch there was the whole drama of a lot of the shows getting kind of cut off of Discovery Plus, and then they all were turning on each other, is what it felt like. And then
That's exactly what happened. Somebody, you can't be one of the, say, top 10 ghost people in the thing and be BR or have some no name going, well, all your evidence is fake, and then your name's being thrown in the dirt while the rest of the 9 are just like, yeah, all of the stuff that we do is real. And then you just go, well, you fake it, you fake it, you fake it, you fake it, and it's just all downhill.
I think that's the problem with Ghost Adventures. I know Ghost Brothers, I think they've kind of disbanded, and now Dalen has like a YouTube channel, and I know Destination Fear now has Project Fear, which they have on YouTube as opposed to being live, like streaming on a streaming service.
They actually follow me on TikTok.
That's awesome. I really do like them. There was, I think, right before they got canceled, essentially on what was it, Discovery Plus. It felt like they were kind of going the route of Zach, because Zach, I think, was the executive producer of it. But all of a sudden, like their third season, it was getting more like, oh, this is evil, this is evil, this is evil, this is demonic. And I was like, if you keep going this way, I think I got to stop watching, because I get really bored really quick of stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. Not everything, or not every location you go to is going to have some type of dark entity. Like, all right, Blackford County Jail, that was one of the locations that I've gone to. That had 2 demons inside the jail itself. It only has one now because somebody took the one with them, and that's a long story. Actually, it's not that long, but actually, technically, the Blackford County Jail has 3, but one is technically tied to the demon house or murder house that's not even a block down the road from the jail. Like, you could stand on the jail's front door, look straight down, or look straight at the murder house, because it's that close. Like, it's probably a 30-second walk. And we found out that the demon that's locked in the basement and the one demon that's locked or in that location is tied to the murder house. They're twins. Now, the one that I said that isn't in that location anymore. We found out it followed somebody in through the door and just basically started making ruckus in the jail. My team leader at the time had a squishy ghost just sitting on the table, and the demon really liked it. So, of course, we had an EVP sit right next to the squishy, and we caught growls and it's speaking to the little spirit or the little squishy ghost. And she told him or told the demon that he could keep the squishy ghost. Come to find out that the following team that went in after us took the squishy ghost. They didn't know that it was attached to a 9-foot tall demon.
I mean, that's crazy.
I also found out that some paranormal entities find me funny. And I only found that out because when I'm not dead tired or I actually get the amount of sleep a normal person's supposed to get, I'm a little bit goofier than how I am right now. Right now, I'm trying to stay professional and not be goofy. But like I had those two demons laughing to where you could physically hear it, and we've caught it on EVPs. I've been to other locations where we had haunted dolls. I say something stupid or funny, depending on who you are. We caught them laughing on EVPs, let alone them waving, their heads moving, eyes moving. Yeah, Post Town's really fun. It's got haunted dolls. One doll loves money, so if you tip her, she'll give you a little more activity. $10, she calls you honey.
Sounds like a worker.
I don't know. I just know I asked where she wanted me to put a $10 bill, and she said up here. And from where my hand was, it was a little bit higher than her foot. Oh, she wanted me to put it a little higher than her foot.
That's awesome. I'm not gonna lie. The haunted dolls terrify the hell out of me. Like absolute just
My wife is terrified of haunted dolls. Like her mom got her one of them twin dolls or whatever they are, where it's like 3 foot tall, and you send a picture of whoever you want this doll to look like with a little piece of their hair. So it's like you cut their actual hair off, mail it in with a picture, and then they match the doll's hair to your hair and try to get the doll to look like you. And my wife keeps telling me every time we go over to her mom's house to grab the doll, and we are going to throw the doll out the window of a moving car anytime. And I'm just looking at her like, yeah, no, I'm good. I don't want to do that. Come to find out that she might be attached to the doll whenever she passes. And I'm sitting here going, well, if I don't pass before you and you're attaching yourself to this doll, I at least now have to make sure the doll is around me. So at least you're with me still. And she looked at me and she goes, well, that makes sense. But what happens if you pass before me? I go, well, hopefully whoever gets your doll will take care of your doll. And she goes, I'm going to haunt whoever has the doll if it's not you. And I go, fair enough.
So has your wife had any experiences?
I don't know what it is, but she is like a I'll just say like she's a light in the dark. So it's like we got like 2 puckwudgies and a shadow dog that follow her around wherever she goes. And of course, you can't see them. They like being invisible. And she nicknamed the puckwudgies, I think, Tinker Bell, something like that, where one's name's Tinker, the other's name's Bell. And then, of course, the shadow dog, or I'm not sure exactly what he is. They Every time we've done an EVP session or sat down, he just calls himself Bane, like the villain from Batman. So now, whenever I hear the word Bane, I'm sitting here thinking of like the 1994, 96 version of Batman where he's got a mask on, hits a button, and he gets all like juiced up. And now I got the image of this shadow dog or shadow something being this little like troll monster of Bane. I'm sorry if he's hearing this, but I just got that picture of that in my head. And I don't know why it's just small hallway on where they like to hang out and chill. And like I said, my mind thinking of that, and I'm just like, all right, this big monster is about to come flying down this hallway and destroy it, and I'm going to have to somehow put it back together or fix it. And it just gets me every time. And then she reminds me it's just a shadow dog, and I'm like, oh yeah.
You're like, man, that ruined the whole image now. No.
No, because I don't know what it is, but my brain is like my biggest enemy, because like once my mind is set on something until I physically can see it or physically can do it, it's like my own worst judge. So like until I physically see Bane come down or show himself to me, I'm still thinking of like Bane from Batman where he's all like, oh.
I remember that one too. With who was it? Mr. Freeze,
Mr.
Poison Ivy.
Freeze and Poison Ivy.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep you too long. I know you said you had, what was it, 4 hours of sleep? I don't know how you're doing it. But I
was going to say, I'm used to running on 4 hours of sleep.
Oh God. I used to. I worked overnights at a poker room, but yeah, I'm good. But I want to go ahead and just say thank you for coming on. So do you have a list of social media that you'd like for me to link in the notes for you?
Yeah, I thought I sent it to you.
Well, I know you had the link tree, so is that wherever like all of where your podcast plays? Okay, cool. Yep. I'll make sure to put it there. I really appreciate you doing this.
You're welcome.
And I hope you have some great encounters in the future.
I will.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Bye.